Okay, so far my channel's mostly just covered seasonal shows, but I really want to start diving more into shows that are non-seasonals that I've really enjoyed and thinking are worth talking about. And as you probably saw from the title, I really want to dive into the world of Monogatari today because I think it is personally one of, if not the most unique anime experience you're pretty much going to find out there in the anime world. Now, to those of you who haven't seen the show or maybe wondering what it is about, I guess the simplest way to explain it is it's one of those shows that's basically split up into a bunch of different arcs, and each arc has its own little mystery that has to be solved. You've seen kind of other shows do this, such as like Haruhi, or like a more modern one like Bunny Girl, kind of. Um, and it's hard to say. I mean, it's kind of comes down to preference. I'd say which one you think personally does it best. If I had to say one, maybe Monogatari, honestly. But again, I say it's kind of preference because each show is a bit different. Like this show overall is really unique, and I think that's what sets it above the other two for me that I just mentioned. And I'm sure there's more that I haven't watched. But again, that is just really the charm of Monogatari is it's just such a unique series. There's no other series I've ever seen ever that is like Monogatari that gives the vibe that Monogatari does. And I just really think, it deserves praise and I think everyone should try it out. I do understand that it is not a show for everyone, and quite honestly, I'm surprised I ended up liking it as much as I did. But I do think everyone should give it at least a try and, see if it's a show for you. And the reason I personally say it is, if you're not familiar with the show too, it's actually a really dialogue heavy based show. Like there are some episodes that literally may take place in the same location and they might just talk for 20 minutes straight. And I know what you're thinking. On paper, that sounds super, super, super boring. But the thing is, the dialogue in the show is so extremely interesting that you actually get like invested in just watching them talk for 20 minutes. And I have heard too that unfortunately, in the Japanese version, there is actually like really clever wordplay and stuff. I think too that makes it really interesting. But I said unfortunately because I think it all mostly gets lost in the English translation. But again, that does not take away from how interesting the dialogue in the show actually is. Because again, I did not think I would like a dialogue heavy show, and clearly, if I didn't, I wouldn't be making a video on it right now. So, what really makes this show that unique, other than, the brief things I've already mentioned, because that, doesn't say much. It's done by Studio Shaft, if you're not aware, and they definitely are a studio I think that's known for doing some interesting things, although I haven't seen tons of their shows yet. And just some random things that, kind of pop off the top of my head. Obviously, you have the famous, like, shaft head tilts, which I think is just still a really unique, like, aspect of it. You have a bunch of, like, random text that appears on screen all the time. Just a lot of, like, character interactions, and, like, the way some scenes are set up are just really odd and, like, again, really different than your typical anime. And I wasn't really expecting to dive right into the characters already, but the characters in the show feel really different than normal. Like I feel like they're not like the same tropey characters you see in most shows. Or, if you want to say they are, they definitely take a really different like approach. Because honestly, I feel like some of the personalities of some characters in this show, I literally have not seen that exact personality in characters from any other anime out there. Like the characters in the show have such unique personality, and again, it just has to do with the very, very unique style of this show. And especially, again, how I said how the dialogue is very interesting and stuff. You have characters that speak in like very different ways, and I think that's really what contributes to, in my opinion, their very unique personalities. One of the only things, though, going deeper into that I kind of wish maybe they did a bit less of, but I don't think it's the biggest issue, is this show probably is one of the heavier fan service type shows I've watched. And it's not all just like visual fan service too. Sometimes in their discussions too, they'll just like throw in like a 1 minute conversation about, something that they probably really didn't need to discuss. Um, so, take that as you want. Overall, I still think the show as a whole is just way too interesting and like way too captivating to let the fan service just draw you away from it. But if you're someone who really easily gets affected by that, unfortunately, it does have more than that than I would please and would want. Um, and on top of that, this is also definitely another one of those shows where you really need to mention the openings and endings to the show. This is a show that actually has a different opening for every arc, which I think is really cool. But on top of that, each opening is based off a specific character and has a completely different stylistic approach than other openings. I mean, again, if there's 2 or 3 openings for the same character throughout the show, those will probably have a similar style to them. But like the opening for like one character will be completely different from the opening for another character, and I find that really interesting. Plus, some of the endings are bangers too, so I recommend checking out some of them as well. My favorite one, that at least that I can remember, is probably the Monogatari one, which I think is the very first one, the Super Soul one. I don't know. Every time that one comes on, it's still amazing. But yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to do a super deep, like, 30-minute analysis on the series. I just want to give a quick overview to people who maybe haven't seen the series, to just kind of explain why I think it's such a unique series, and I really think everyone should at least check it out. Maybe watch at least an arc or two, see if you like it or not, because, I mean, some of the arcs are really short. Like, I think the first arc was like 2 episodes. But yeah, I mean, I think I covered all the basics. If you're a Monogatari fan and you think I missed something really important, feel free to let me know down below. But I think that's going to do it. Hopefully, if you haven't seen the show, maybe you're convinced to check it out, or, maybe you just wanted to watch it because you're a Monogatari fan and you wanted to see what I had to say about it. But I think that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next video.